Voy a presentarles a Eliud. Es licenciado en Gestión de Agronegocios de la Universidad Egerton de Kenia. Es máster en Economía y Gestión Agraria de Wageningen University and Research Center de Países Bajos. Es doctor en Ciencias en Agronegocios de la Universidad de Kiel, Alemania. Es especialista en cadenas de valor de mercado y desarrollo de la agroempresa en CIAT de Ruanda y fue docente en la Universidad de Egerton, Nhoro, en Kenia. Actualmente es investigador de Market CIAT y desarrolla estudios sobre la cadena de valor de mercado en los países africanos. Bienvenido.
Buenas noches. Muchas gracias. First of all, is to thank the organizers for this great session. Actually, ended up being much bigger than I expected, and that shows the kind of interest there is in these kind of issues that Elizabeth and the university have really put forward. So I'm just going to briefly comment on the two presentations by Hans Peter and Josen Nunes. I hope that's correct. At face value, these presentations look so different, but looking further into it, you see some of the similarities, some of the issues that are coming out, which actually are very useful for cross-learning between the two. So beginning with the first presentation, Heinz Peter presents a case of a conflict between the traditions and the modernity. And these traditions are represented by a people that are so proud to really keep to their traditions, vis-a-vis the influence from the external place, represented by the new farmers, and especially with the influence from Indonesia for this community that is still under the larger leadership of a different country. Now, one thing that comes out clearly is the issue of the big man system. It is interesting that the resistance of the indigenous people against the big men, who are the new farmers or those from Indonesia, ultimately in the end led to establishment of new big men within the same communities in terms of trying to look at the self-autonomy. The very leaders that are supposed to lead them to independence, especially looking at the economic independence, ended up actually perpetuating the same challenge, the same issues of ruling over the same people, which is what actually they were trying to work against. It is very interesting to see the number of pigs that are being slaughtered, and you look at the value of each pig, it's really very high. Incidentally, these pigs are not kept by the same people, the very people that are using them. They are kept by the purported big men. So that means that this community is actually promoting these businesses, the agri-businesses of the very, very community people that they're supposed to be going against. It's also very interesting to see that this support from the government that is supposed to go to this community actually goes on to perpetuate or promote the same cultural practices that keep these people lower and lower economically. Now, one thing that also comes out clearly is the issue of feminization, which I see in this case that initially these people are not keeping maybe say pigs and other crops, but for the purposes of these rituals, some of them began keeping pigs. But then it's not the men that are keeping these pigs, but it is the women, it is the wives. And I think Heinz Peter brings out the case of men marrying more wives for the sole purpose of raising the pigs and actually producing the sweet potatoes that will be used in the rituals and festivals. So that's really something that is really worth thinking about. Now, one question that comes out in this case of the first presentation is the issue of social identity versus market integration. And clearly from the presentation by Heinz Peter, this market integration has not succeeded. Modernity has been resisted. So the question that comes out then is really what has been the effect of, let's say, education within this community? Is there potential for education to make a change? Because for my impression is that this community could actually better resist these new agriculturalists by actually engaging in the same activities the new people are engaging in. That is the best way to really resist rather than running away from it. I think globalization is there, and I think it's only a matter of time before it catches up with them. Now, coming to the second presentation, which also brought up very interesting things. I was lucky to have visited the field actually in the southern highlands, which was very interesting for me. I've never experienced a cold desert, and for me that's what I saw over there is a cold desert, and there was even snow on one of the days, and we almost got stuck in the snow. So that's a really big experience. But looking at the people over there, they appear to have quite limited sources of livelihoods. The Camelidas or Yamas, the quinoa, and the other option is actually migration to other countries or to other activities. So the livelihood sources are quite limited within among those that actually reside in that community. Now, the president also brings out a contrasting picture of the new agriculturalists also in this country, who are in the lowlands, for example, in the Santa Cruz city or region, whereby these are new agriculturalists, actually they are agribusinesses. So compared to these others in the ants, in the highlands, the agriculturalists actually have unlimited strategies or livelihood options. They can diversify in as much as possible compared to these ones that are in the Andes, in the highlands. So some of the issues that he has also brought out are the fact that in the rural areas, at least these rural communities tried to change. They try to adapt with the changes that are coming out. They try to modernize themselves, try to improve their agricultural activities. And one thing that comes out is the response to globalization is actually much more, even among these communities. We have the quinoa price boom. And I think because of this price boom, most of these communities responded positively by engaging in more production of quinoa. And that is the effect of globalization. The same globalization, of course, comes out in a different way, more in a negative way, where I think the presenter indicates the case of subsidies from developed countries, which make their products cheaper, and therefore Bolivia ended up also importing actually some of the food products that will be produced here. And the presenter also brings out the conflict between these indigenous communities who are also trying to engage into modern farming or globalized farming vis-a-vis the new farmers that are, they are in essence competing for the same market, the same internal market. So the question then that comes out is what should be the strategies, especially for these indigenous communities? Should these indigenous communities continue also competing in the same way as the other modern farmers, or should these indigenous communities take a different strategy? And what should be the role of the government in that case? Now, among the options that I see possibly for the indigenous communities, supported of course by the government, is the issue of creating some kind of branding, possibly a niche activity, niche production activity, which is focused. For example, we saw about organic farming. The rest of the modern farmers could go into conventional farming, but maybe these others are focusing on more on organic farming, so that they continue at least sustaining their productivities or the activities, while of course facing the challenges within the globalization. So in brief, I think the issues that we need to face up are, for example, in each of these cases, it's really a question of how long each of the communities will continue in their current activities or current production or agricultural ways. And the other issue is that we need to internally look at how to support these communities in their respective conditions, not really having a policy that equate them with the other more, of course, modern agriculturists, but that can support the unique ways of production so that they can both equally contribute to their economic or livelihood means. I think I will stop there, and thank you. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.